Iowa's News Now Sports brings you black and gold glory. Your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks.
Honestly, I'm just progressing every single day. I'm feeling a lot better, and really, I'm just really excited to get out there with my teammates, and we've prepared really well this week so far.
The question remains, how much will Cade McNamara be out there with his teammates this Saturday? Welcome to a new season of Eye on the Hawks. This year we're going to have a rotating series of different guests each week, but to start the season off, couldn't think of anybody better to start with than the man you just saw in some of that video behind Cade McNamara, man who's got his own Ray Gun t-shirt, David Eickholt, Hawkeye insider for 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. Knower of all things Hawkeyes. David, appreciate you joining us for this first week of the season.
Very happy to be here. Yeah, very big scuffle yesterday for Cade McNamara. I don't think he got 2 steps outside the door before everyone just sort of mobbed in there. He saw me a little bit in the background. I'm like, I'm not going to get video. I'm just going to try to get any sort of audio.
Throw that phone in there.
I got the height at least, so I can reach over. It's all good.
Well, we're still waiting to find out what might happen with Cade on Saturday, if we're going to see him or how much we're going to see him. Here's Kirk Ferentz this week talking about how he's approaching Cade's status for this weekend.
He's been practicing. I can't put a percentage on where he's at right now. He's been cleared medically. That's the good news. Then the thing we have to judge as we go along is how effective can he be, and can he go out and perform in a way that's representative of the kind of player he is. So look good in practice today. Well, it's kind of day by day. We'll see how sore he is tomorrow and see how he's feeling. And obviously we'd love to have him out there, but we also want to make sure he can perform at a high level.
Well, Dave, we talked about the guy all offseason after the transfer to Iowa. Now the injury comes up, and at this point, he's listed as a starter on Saturday. How much do you think that we're going to actually see Cade play this Saturday?
I do think we are going to see Cade play. I mean, I think it's a big deal that he's been cleared medically as of Tuesday. And he's been practicing, I believe, since Saturdays when he came back. Iowa football put out that cryptic picture of him in pads inside Kinnick Stadium. But keep in mind, I do think that he really does have to play, because this is a guy that really has not played meaningful snaps since the college football playoff. I mean, he's a proven winner. He has a ton of college football experience, but he needs that in-game rep with his new team. Yes, he has chemistry with Eric All, etc. But I do think ideally he goes out there, Iowa scores 4 touchdowns in the first half, bench him, put in Deacon Hill as the backup for the rest of the game.
A major factor in how much we do see Cade will be how well this offensive line plays this season. A group that brings back some size and experience. Mitch Fick brings us more on a group with lots of weight on their shoulders this fall.
All the talk in the offseason in Iowa City was about the quarterback, the wide receivers, but it's a Kirk Ferentz team still for the Hawkeyes. The O-line will be paramount to success in 2023, a year more experience for a young group in 2022, a couple of key transfers that have a ton of collegiate experience, and you've got a group that's playing with a purpose as they head into Utah State.
There's a certain way we want to go about our business, and I think that started way back in January. It started right after that bowl game. And the way we came back this offseason just worked each and every day and competed against each other. That was the most important thing for us, and just each and every day, all of us going out there, just having a purpose. I think that's the most important thing. I think there were sometimes last year we might have gone out there and just gone through the motions, but our coaching staff and some of our leaders have really emphasized going out there with some purpose and motivation.
Last year we didn't have the, I guess you could say, depth at a whole lot of positions or trust in these guys, but I really feel like you can plug any one of our backups in, and they could start a football game too. There's a lot of trust in every one of these dudes to go out there and get the job done. They understand what they need to do and understand what they can't do at the same time. I understand what it's pass pro. They can't get beat inside and things like that. So I mean, like I said, you can put anybody in there; they're going to get the job done.
They pulled Linderbaum out of the equation the last 2 years. We haven't had a lot of experience up there. Or you think about a guy like Colby had 11 starts going into last year, but there was a true freshman where he was just trying to survive. In all fairness to him, so. It's just a whole night and day situation right now. We got a lot more experience and, a little bit more maturity.
And an opportunity to show some toughness in the trenches right away against Utah State. The Aggies ranked 113th in the country in 2022 in stopping the run. A chance for those hog mollies for the Hawkeyes to push their weight around a little bit and make a statement to start the season. In Iowa City, Mitch Fick, Eye on the Hawks.
Well, David, the projected starting 5, according to the depth chart, they all started in that Music City Bowl in December. More depth this year on the line. That's going to be a huge leap forward compared to where they were a year ago. How do you feel like this team is going to improve?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's see it to believe it at this point when it comes to the offense. But I do think that Kirk knows offensive line play, and he's been very adamant about the maturity and the experience factor. And I think Logan Jones, just talking behind the scenes, talking to him, he just comes across as a lot more confident. than last season. I think that goes a long way. I think there were unrealistic expectations when he took over for Tyler Linderbaum, who might have been the best center in Big Ten history had he come back for another season.
That's true.
To rival Dave Remington. But Jengs Dunker, I think we need to see some more tackle stability. I think moving Connor Colby back to right guard, where he started 11 games as a true freshman, I think that's going to be a benefit. And just settling him in there. Then you have Rusty Feth, the transfer from Miami, Ohio, and Dijon Parker, who we haven't really been able to see, even despite him being here since spring. But they're high on him. And again, I do think the maturity and the experience factor. And I think the thing that they need to get back to, it's just a high floor. Just get back to consistent Iowa football. And if they lay that foundation, I really think we'll be able to see what Brian Ferentz's actual scheme is. Because I don't even think we've been able to see a scheme over the past couple of seasons because of the way the offensive line is played.
All right, well, last year the depth at wide receiver, that was lacking. We've got some more depth at that position this fall. Nico Ragaini and Deontay Vines listed as the starters. Caleb Brown and Seth Anderson are the big-name transfers. Here's Kirk talking about some of the guys that they're going to have lining up at wideout this fall.
You got a healthy Nico Ragaini, you got a healthy Deontay Vines. Start with those two guys. Two pleasant surprises from the month of August are Seth Anderson, who we thought we liked, and he's had a really good August, and boy, he's a very impressive young guy. And then Caleb the same way. Both those guys have the potential to really improve and climb if they keep practicing like they have.
An experienced group with loads of potential. David, let's start with a prediction out of the receiving core. Who is going to lead that Iowa receiving group this year?
I think Nico's the safe pick, and I'm going to stick with that. I thought about going to Seth Anderson. I was really impressed with Seth in the fall open scrimmage because keep in mind, Iowa didn't really know what they had in Seth because he missed most of spring practice when he got here. And I picked him as the star of the fall open scrimmage as well. Deontay Vines, I really think him being healthy is the big key for him. I think Caleb Brown's a year away. I'm very, very high on his potential. I think he's the most talented wide receiver that Iowa has maybe ever had, just from a raw potential standpoint. Some of the quickest speed I've seen an Iowa receiver have. He's playing outside despite being 5'10". I think we're going to see him come alive in the second half of the season. So among the wide receivers at least, I'm going to go with Nico because I think he's going to emerge as kind of that safety net for Cade McNamara.
And Kirk has alluded to that too, where Caleb, he's great, he's got a lot of talent, but he is still young and inexperienced. Well, our Eye on the Hawks podcast host, Mitch Fick, looked up a couple of stats this week. In the Kirk Ferentz era, Iowa has never had an opening drive passing touchdown in a season opener. Also, Iowa's only had 4 passing touchdowns in the first quarter of a season opener. Wild stat. Does Iowa make that happen this coming Saturday?
Look, I'm a fan of hot takes. You know that. I'm not going to go that far that they're going to make a passing touchdown on the opening drive. I do think they will score in the first quarter.
Okay.
And I will give them a passing touchdown because, again, I think the biggest thing that Iowa needs to do is get the wide receivers going because teams are going to continue to stack the box until Iowa beats them on the perimeter. Cade McNamara has the weapons. Brian Ferentz has the weapons. And I do think there needs to be a lot of pressure on this Iowa offense to perform.
We're going to go out there, talk, physical, fast, and try and make plays, get on the ball.
That's Nick Jackson, one of the newcomers to the defense. After the break, we'll discuss who's filling some of the holes left from graduation and what's ahead in the gambling investigation. That's next in Eye on the Hawks.
Nobody wins a championship in August, so I think coming in here every single day and trying just to get better every single day and work on ourselves and focus on each week individually is the only thing we can do.
With one of the statistically worst offenses in the country, the defense led the Hawks to 18 wins in the past 2 seasons. They've had 40 interceptions total the last 2 years, and in 2022 led the nation with 6 defensive touchdowns. Even though that kind of production is going to be hard to repeat for a third year, the defense feels like it has the talent to hold that standard.
Just going out and doing our job and dominating, every single week. And if we don't do that, we feel like we haven't done our job. So I'd say just dominating week in and week out, no matter who the opponent is, who's on the field. The ones are out there, the twos are out there, whoever, just dominating our opponent every snap.
There it is. David Eickholt still with us on Eye on the Hawks. David, has anything given you reason to believe that this year's defense won't be as outstanding as they've been under Phil Parker?
That's the thing. I don't want to bet against Phil Parker. I think he's kind of earned the benefit of the doubt, right? But people need to realize no matter how bad that offense was last year, the defense was all-time great. I mean, it was one of the best defenses statistically in the past 15, 20 years. I mean, what they did is unprecedented. But getting Nick Jackson from Virginia is such a big, big addition. I mean, 352 career tackles. a guy that can do very well in coverage and provide a lot of different things. Xavier Wampa, who I think is the most physically gifted defensive back that Phil Parker's had. Cooper DeJean, likely a first-round pick. So I don't want to say they can repeat last year, but I also think that it's unfair to bet against Phil Parker. I think it's still going to be a top 5 and at worst top 8 defense in the country.
Well, there have been some updates this week in the gambling investigation into Iowa Hawkeye athletics. Jack Johnson and Aaron Blom, 2 players that bet on Hawkeye football games while they were on the team, no longer on the team. Defensive lineman Noah Shannon is still on the roster, but is suspended for the entire season. He's appealing that decision, but he's still one of 15 players listed on the 2023 Player Council, and Coach Ferentz still seems to question the wisdom of suspending a player like Noah for the entire season.
Nobody's in denial of what the facts are. It's just, I think the issue in my mind is just, as the punishment fit what the violation was. Nobody's denying there was a violation. That's not the issue, but the issue is what's a just punishment, and I think that's a really valid thing to think about and just give consideration. It just seems like there's a common sense element that's missing right here.
Now, David, if that appeal process fails and the Hawkeyes are without Noah Shannon for this entire season, how much is that going to affect their overall defensive ability this year?
But in terms of just Iowa and what they're losing, I think they lose a guy who players respect. I think Kirk's gone out of his way to really defend him. His teammates have, and being chosen on the leadership council is a big deal. But Aaron Graves, man, I'm telling you, I am such a big fan of that kid. 6'5", 295 pounds. He's built like a Greek god. I mean, he is pound for pound one of the strongest kids I've seen come through Iowa. Y.A. Black, if he stays healthy, I think he could emerge as a potential pro prospect. And I've said it too. I think Iowa's defensive line, it might be one of Kirk Ferentz's deepest in his tenure. I think they can go a legitimate 9 to 10 deep. So while it's unfortunate if they lose Noah for the entire season, I think they have the means to kind of replicate the production he would bring.
We got to be ready. We got to be sound and fundamentally sound, and also do a good job with our communication and try to play it out as it goes. So, it's kind of the challenge right there.
Got to respect the opponent. Kirk says it every season. When we come back, Curtis Fader has a breakdown of who Iowa will want to watch for on Saturday against Utah State. That's next on Eye on the Hawks. This Saturday, Iowa welcomes Utah State to Kinnick Stadium for only the 3rd time ever, the first meeting since 2002. Curtis Fader breaks down what to watch for when the Aggies take the field on Saturday.
Just like last year, the Hawkeyes opened the season against an opponent from the Mountain West Conference. Fans, of course, are hoping for better than a 7-3 victory from the Hawks, but Utah State is definitely a vulnerable opponent. The team went 6-6 in the regular season last year, and if there was any litmus test to see what Iowa's offense looks like, it would be now against an Aggies defense ranked 106th in team defense, allowing over 31 points per game in 2022. This level of competition may also weigh on if it's even worth it to play Cade McNamara, but head coach Kirk Ferentz still has a deep respect for this team and its coach.
If you look at what he did going to Utah State, they were coming off a 1-5 season in the pandemic year, and he and his staff led the team to 11 wins 2 years ago, and then came back 6-6. So he's had success everywhere he's gone. It's a unique situation. It's always unique in first games because of the new players. I'm not quite sure about the roster and all that type of thing.
In terms of what Utah State brings to the table this year, the U in its logo should stand for unknown. Only 9 starters returning combined on offense and defense, with the team's latest depth chart still undecided on who should play in many positions. As far as who we know will be playing on Saturday, you might recognize the QB under center. Cooper Legas went viral at the end of 2021 for stepping in as a third stringer and throwing a 62-yard TD pass in the LA Bowl. That Cinderella story turned into a pumpkin real quick for him in 2022 when he threw for under 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 picks after starting in Week 5. With all that being said, Utah State have several question marks on offense with a new starting running back, debates on who will line up alongside Vaughn at wide receiver, and who will fill in on the offensive line. Saturday's contest might provide players on the elite Hawkeye defense a chance to make some plays, pad some stats, and dazzle the fans at a sold-out Kinnick Stadium.
This Iowa team, look, they might want to respect the opponent. Luckily, we're in a position where, I don't really have to. The reality is Iowa should be able to go out on Melrose for a couple hours and then get in the locker room and then go out there and take care of business. I mean, this Utah State team is super unknown. And again, I think Iowa just really should be able to win in the trenches. And this is a game where Caleb Johnson should be getting 25, 30 carries, go for 150 yards, couple touchdowns. And Cade McNamara, assuming he plays, goes out there and throws a couple touchdowns, put him on the bench, and then Iowa fans can just go back in line for another Swarm Golden Ale.
Enjoy, maybe see a little bit of future in Deacon Hill out there. Well, assuming that this is not a challenging game, what do you want to see out of the Hawkeyes this weekend?
I'd like to see them go deep a couple times. I'd like to see them just kind of expand their scheme. I'd like to see them get their new playmakers involved, get Caleb Brown maybe on a reverse. I think he's kind of built for that sort of hybrid role. I think he's the most versatile player on Iowa's offense, even though he just got to campus in June, right?
With the way that the offense has looked the last couple of seasons, they could really throw some fans in front of a sold-out crowd, as Curtis alluded to. Well, there's more to come on Eye on the Hawks. David and I make our game picks for this weekend. Will Iowa sneak past Utah State, or do we think you and I can beat Iowa State? Find out after the break on Eye on the Hawks. We're back on Eye on the Hawks. David Eickholt is our guest host this week. You can catch him at 24/7 Sports and the Swarmcast. Anywhere else people should be watching for you, David?
Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever you call it.
Basically everywhere. I've been grateful to kind of have different opportunities in the States. So, again, like being here, huge honor being the first guest host here. And
sure.
HawkeyeInsider.com, 24/7 Sports.
Well, David, let's pick some winners for week one. Got 5 games. First one airs on Fox 28. It's big noon kickoff. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and the Buffs travel to TCU, coming off a national championship game appearance.
Prime time. No, I'm kidding. Colorado, I do think they are going to be a little bit better than people anticipate them, but TCU, I still think they're very high on their quarterback. I got TCU basically running away with this one.
The Vegas odds, I think, say that Colorado's going to win less than 3 games this year. I don't see any way that that's a possibility. TCU, they're losing an Iowan and Max Duggan, but I have to think with the pedigree they've got there and the guys they have coming back, I'm going with TCU as well. Next one is on Sunday, maybe the biggest matchup of the weekend, 5th-ranked LSU taking on number 8 Florida State. Seminoles are 2.5-point dogs in Orlando. What do you think?
I'm going to go with Florida State. I really do think that their quarterback play is going to be a little bit better than LSU. I think Florida State's a little bit better put together for the style of game this might be. So I'm going to go with the Seminoles.
As good as Florida State's been, seems like they start a little bit slow out of the gate each season. So what the heck, I think I'm going to pick LSU in this game. Moving on to the Hawkeyes. They're going to play Penn State to kick off Big Ten play in week 4. The Nittany Lions hosting West Virginia in week 1. Penn State 20.5-point favorites in this game. David?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Penn State. I think Drew Allard, they've been very high on him as a quarterback. He's only thrown 2 interceptions during fall camp, apparently. Read that earlier today. I think it's James Franklin's best roster he's put together right now in his tenure, and I do think that they could scare Ohio State and Michigan this season. So I'm going to go with Penn State. 4th game, you and I. Careful what you say here, David. This is my alma mater. The Panthers heading over to Ames. Never a walk in the park for the Cyclones against the Panthers. You and I, 23.5-point underdogs. What do you think, David? Now, you'll be shocked to know, Owen, I don't have a lot of friends in Central Iowa based on some of my analysis in the past. I'm going to go with you and I.
Yeah.
I really think they pull off the upset. I don't think Matt Campbell's team's going to be ready with all the question marks on offense. Theo Day is him. He's a very, very talented quarterback, and I'm going to go you and I with the upset.
If we were picking this game 3 months ago, I'd for sure go Iowa State with the amount of talent with Hunter Decker's Gyro Brock coming back, but that is not going to be the case on the Iowa State roster this year. UNI has so much talent returning. They're 3-6 over the last 9 games against Iowa State, and 3 of those 6 losses that UNI's had have been by 1 possession. I mean, they just always play tough when they head over to there to Ames. With the amount of guys they have coming back, I'm picking UNI in this game as well. Love it. Let's go Cats. Now finally, the Hawkeyes, Iowa, 25.5-point favorites. Do the Hawkeyes win, and do they cover?
I don't see Utah State being able to score more than, if they even score 1 touchdown. Phil Parker's defense has shown up really, really well in the season openers. I don't think this is a scare. I don't think it matters if Deacon Hill or Cade McNamara line up at quarterback. Give the ball to Caleb Johnson. Let the offensive line eat.
Well, that does it for week 1 of Eye on the Hawks. Scan the QR code on the screen to download, subscribe, and listen to the Eye on the Hawks podcast. Got several preview episodes already out right now if you'd like to catch up before the first game, including an extended version of the show you're watching right now with David Eickholt. It's available wherever you get podcasts. Every week, we're going to be doing a live stream on YouTube reacting to the Iowa game. This week, we're aiming to start at noon on Sunday. And you can follow along at Iowa's News Now on YouTube. We'll send out the link from our Eye on the Hawks Twitter account. David, thank you again for your time today. Appreciate you joining us for this first show of the season.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you on Saturday. Thanks for joining us for our first Eye on the Hawks of the season. We'll see you again next week.